Well, a very good afternoon to you, and welcome to the sunny southeast where we're in Wexford. We will have a couple more guests joining us shortly, but I'm delighted that firstly and foremostly we have the Mayor of Wexford, Councillor Leonard Kelly, joining us because I know he's only got a few minutes. So we're going to have a quick chat with him. Thanks very much for dropping by, Leonard.
Rory, no problem. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, listeners.
Good afternoon to you. Now, Leonard, what I want to do first of all is I just want to give people who aren't from down here a chance to get to know you. If you want, just for 3 or 4 minutes, tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, etc.
Yeah, okay, no problem, Rory. My name is Leonard Kelly. I am the Mayor of Wexford. I am a county councillor for Wexford, for an independent councillor here in Wexford. I'm coming towards the end of my term as Mayor. I'm living in Wexford town. Love the southeast, love Wexford town. It is an amazing place to live, to grow up, to shop in. Wexford. Anything else on that, Rory?
No, but that's it. If you're happy enough that that's what there is to tell, and also joining us, I'm delighted that we have Anthony Dobbs from the Retro Gaming Store. So what we'll do, again, same thing, Anthony. If you want to tell people a little bit about you, what you do, and where they need to go for all their games. And I think you are there, are you, Anthony?
I'm here, yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to tell us a little bit about what it is you do and what people can expect when they come and visit your shop and that type of thing.
Yeah, well, my name's Anthony. I own the Retro Gaming Store Plus in Wexford Town. We stock everything from Atari 2600 all the way up to PlayStation 5. So if you want something modern, we have it. But if you want a trip down nostalgia lane, we can take you that way too.
Right, and what would your own choice of favourite type of games be? Which system would you?
Well, I'm an 80s gamer, so it's probably going to be Commodore 64 because it was my first ever computer when I was 6. It's also the first electrical item I took apart and couldn't put back together again. So we had to take it down to Hassett's Chemists down the road to Edmund Hassett, and he had to repair it for me on Stephen's Day.
Very good.
Rory, I'd have to say I'm a Sega Mega Drive man myself. So
Sega Mega Drive.
But that would have been the one that I remember myself and friends we would get together to play the early forms of FIFA. I think FIFA was on the Mega Drive.
It was on the Mega Drive, yeah.
So definitely the Mega Drive was the one for me.
So to people who are thinking about, now that all the talk is about relocation and that type of thing, if someone was to say, well, what does the sunny southeast have to offer? Other than the wonderful sunshine, I mean, I had great plans for having a lovely view behind me today. And unfortunately, it was so bright that I actually had to take a picture and use a green screen, or it had just vanished it was so bright behind me. So what would you say is the southeast has to offer?
My God, Rory, it is so much. Even last couple of days, the blue flag beaches have come out. So I believe Wexford has the greatest number of blue flag beaches in all of Leinster. That's just one example. In terms of the towns that are in Wexford, there's a selection of towns and they all have their own unique character. Of course, I'm here based in Wexford town itself. So Wexford has an amazing selection of whether you want to go shopping, from a food point of view. Hopefully when our pubs and other hospitality sector reopen, you can see the uniqueness of that. It has excellent schools. It is genuinely a good place to live. Anthony, what do you think?
Meet the people. There's so many quirky people in this town. It just makes it that little bit more unique. You never know who you're going to get, who walks in the door. Everybody is just so different, so many different things, and they love to talk. Wexford people love to chat. It's a pity we can't have a pint because the chat would probably go on all night. But
I think also, lads, our main street, like, it is very unique. It is something that we've managed to maintain. There's still a lot of like Anthony's shop. There's a lot of unique businesses there. So ones that are just in Wexford. So people come to Wexford for the experience that they get, whether it be an Anthony shop or a selection of other shops. Whether it be, there aren't that many shops you can get on the main street. For example, butcher shops. Like, we would find a butcher shop there. There's a selection of independent clothes shops, books sellers. I think Wally may be joining us on this as well. Music, you pretty much, our main street, you can pretty much get anything that you would need on our main street, which doesn't
I
happen
think,
in a lot of towns the size of Wexford.
I think you've hit on a good one there, Leonard, as well. It's probably one of the towns where there's so many family-owned,
Yeah,
small, independent businesses. Where yes, we have your Pennies and your Duns, but if you walk down the main street, probably 1 out of every 10, maybe a franchise as we call it, the rest of them are family-owned.
yeah,
You don't
And
see
that's
that in that many towns, especially because the town is pretty much one long strip of road. And you can pretty much do our town in about a 20-minute walk at a slow pace. And everything is different. I know you've got your clothes shops, but they do different things. When
yeah,
you walk in, like you said, like Wally's bookshop, and then of course, you've got Eason's and the book centre. Was 3 completely different types of experience. And I
absolutely.
don't think you get that anywhere else.
Yeah. No, well, I have to say now, I mean, I travel around quite a bit around the country, and I have to say there's nowhere has that same feel that Wexford has. I mean, as you know, Anthony, I've been coming up and down to Wexford for many, many
You
years.
have. I think I've
Through,
known you for about 8 years now.
shh, we don't talk about how long ago that is. It's been a long, long time. But no, and there's always been something very, very special about Wexford. And that's why when I was starting to do these on the road specials, it was Wexford had to be the place to start because of the characters, because of the range of places. And again, even in terms of accommodation, you have everything from your small B&B giving you that very intimate setting, right the way up to, if you want the 5-star service, you have the hotels around to do that as well. So, and different people that I've been talking to around the country have all had different experiences of reopening after lockdown. What's it been like for businesses down here? Are they feeling that they got the support they need? Are they feeling they would like more? And again, this isn't, I'm not talking specifically against the council here, or could the council be doing more, because the council are tied by what the government allow them to. But do you feel there should be more supports? There could be more supports? Is there something being missed that could be chased up and to see, could they do X, Y, or Z?
Government-wise, I don't think they've done enough for small independent businesses. Personally, I think that's probably going to be echoed by every small independent business owner you ever speak to. Um, the likes of the CRSS scheme was, quite frankly, a waste of time because it actually did more hindrance than help. It limited you to do a certain amount of trade, but for somebody who started a business, say, for example, back in 2018, 2019, obviously you start a business, you're not earning a lot. So some people were only on €100 a week on the CRSS scheme, and then they're only expected to trade less than 25% of their actual standard weekly turnover. But in today's market, that wouldn't even cover their rent for most people, let alone cover standard bills, let alone cover stock outlay, because you still have to trade. You can't
Absolutely.
you can't go
Um,
dark for 6 months.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, though, what I would be saying to you is, I mean, if you look at the situation in the UK, where you have 3 million small independent traders
Yeah.
who were totally excluded. So on the flip side, I mean, they did some, could they do more? But the same question comes back. Where would is the money to come from to pay for this? Because if all this money going out is going to have to come back somewhere. So, I mean, if they turned around and said, well, okay, what we're going to have to do is small businesses are now going to pay a levy to cover out all the payments that were paid out. Is that where the solution lies? Or
To be honest, I think it's all going to come down to taxes anyway.
yeah,
It always really does. I think we already know that the PUP payment's going to be taxed. I'll find out in a couple of months how much 2020 is going to be, and then we'll look at it there. But it's always tax. It's always tax to get the money in. I know, obviously, there's green tax and everything like that. I'm not quite sure where that's going to go. That drove prices through the roof. That doesn't just drive household prices through the roof. It drives as business, kind of, such as electricity and stuff like that. That's going to go through the roof as well. But it's always tax. It'll always be paid back in tax. Like, we know they're going to adjust the tax credits on self-employed, just like they've done with guys who've returned to work as employees. We've seen all the posts and stuff where people have been hammered with tax straight away.
Well, for those who are self-employed, they're not doing the spread of the tax credits over 4 years. It's going in as part of their income tax return for 2021. So if you want to enter into a payment plan with them at that stage, if it's substantially high, they will look at doing something.
Yeah.
But for employees, they're spreading it over 4 years. For self-employed, it's lump sum scenario.
Okay, that's something I actually didn't know. I thought it was the same for everybody. That's another thing that they pitch self-employed versus employed as well. It's not a one-for-all system. It's you're that way and they're that way as such. You probably can't see my hands anyway moving, but
absolutely no. I absolutely agree with you. And I mean, there's always going to be that divide there. And I mean, then you've got the divide between public service, private employed, self-employed. They're all three totally different types of things. So, I mean, there's a lot to be said on that there. And, I mean, tell me that, I know there was a lot of talk at one stage about putting in, like, little coffee huts and that type of thing down along the seafront here, or down along the pier here. What's happening on that? Has there been any progress made?
Yeah, they're in. There was almost like a trial last year that a number did go in, and then just from a district level here in Wexford, we decided, look, this needs to be an open and transparent system. So that system was put in place. There was a public offering put out for businesses to actually apply to get something on the quay. Also in our local park here, Minryan Park, and also in another amenity space. They're there. So we've 3 food offerings on the quay, and we've one in Minryan also. So no, they're there and they're thriving. They're doing well.
Well, that's good.
And it's something. Look, it's only part of, I suppose, the offering. It's something that you talk about towns and what makes towns unique. Like one part that has always made Wexford unique is the quay, as well. If you consider the fact we have like 3 times a day, we have a train running directly beside our quay front that you can walk beside. But we did, I feel, for a long time to kind of turn our back to the water in Wexford. But now, during lockdown, especially last year, people really started almost to rediscover, if they hadn't already discovered it, the quay as a really special amenity spot. And you can even see now most days of the week, if you go down there, it's actually relatively busy. It wouldn't have always been like that. So that's another space, and like you can even see some businesses starting to open there as well, which is good. Same thing in places like Peter Square, for example. A number of businesses have gone up there, and that's an area, if you went back 4 years ago, there was nothing up there. There was some residential housing, but there was very little. Now it's almost developing its own identity in terms of being a business district. Bookshop. A
new coffee dock opened there yesterday, didn't it?
Exactly, new coffee
dock. And there's a juice bar opening just down the road from it as well.
Yeah. And that coffee dock is going to be a wine bar in the months ahead. So Wexford is doing well. Like Wexford is, but my God, have we, especially the business community, and like Anthony, look, I wouldn't even attempt to try to speak for the business community here in Wexford, but everywhere has gotten a kicking. I do believe from the local enterprise office point of view, they have been working Trojan work within the constraints they're set from a government point of view, but they have been doing amazingly. The people up there, they were, especially last year, they were doing incredible work. But for me, the fear is for the next year, we can't now pull supports out, because a lot of businesses have been on life support, and those that have managed to reopen, we cannot now just go, well, you're on your own now, lads, off you go. It has to be to ensure that lifeline is still maintained, worked out, planned, strategized, make sure it's done properly, but to give everyone the best chance. Because ultimately, I don't, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else, I do not want to see loads of empty shop units on our main street. It is what makes us unique. People like Anthony, all the other shop owners on the main street that have tried their damnedest during the lockdown to keep things open, they're now re-emerging. Now it's up to everybody to support them as much as they can, but also if there are supports needed. And we are, from a council point of view, we're doing our best, like in terms of making augmentations to streetscapes, for example, to allow businesses of outdoor dining, things like that. We're doing our best, but can we do better? I'm also a believer in continuous improvement. You can always do better. Always.
So, are we going to have an opera festival this year?
Yeah, it was announced a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
was announced. Yeah, I haven't heard that it was formally announced.
Yeah. No,
I,
that was announced. Yeah, it's happening this year. We're
great.
just waiting for hopefully for confirmation of the Spiegel 10 Festival as well. So that hasn't been formally announced yet. And then that will just show hopefully some level of normality returning for all of us.
So, one question we like to ask all our guests. I know you have to run off very shortly, Leonard, so I'll ask you first. One of the things we like to know from all our guests is, what's your favourite light bite lunch?
I love in good weather to get outside and have something to eat outside. I could never say my favourite because I'm just an utter foodie. I will eat anything. I love anything that is, we'll say, homemade or that's like freshly produced. Absolutely. Whether that be if I'm having a coffee, and I will always ask, like, is that homemade? So if it's a bun or a biscuit, Anthony probably sees me walking past his shop often with a coffee jar or something in my
A
hand.
coffee.
So I'll always be eating something. Recently, and it's not like even on the key front we talked about it. A business opened up there, and they are producing the most amazing fish burgers, and that is just like fresh local fish. Again, a local restaurant that got one of the tenders down there. So, what's my favorite? Something that is handy to eat, that I can eat outdoors, and hopefully that is locally produced.
Very good. And what about yourself, Anthony? What would it be for you?
As long as it has cheese in it, I'm a sandwich person. It's a sandwich. I'd say probably 6 days a week. It's a sandwich for lunch, usually homemade. Sometimes I have a thing for Subway. I've finally gotten my wife Laura into eating in Subway as well, which is good because she was the reason I didn't go in. Subway. I love trying new places. We've been to Rob's new burrito bowl. That was lovely yesterday. Laura got a brownie, and the smell running through the shop was unreal. And we've been to Wild Mexican as well, which is really nice. We don't generally go unless I'm not working. It's a grab and go sandwich because we don't close for lunch. I eat on the go in the shop. But usually when we go out for something for lunch, I love Cream Cafe down Henrietta Street. Probably our favourite place to go. Or we go to Rob's as well.
Yeah. So you've a good selection. I mean, it's one thing
great
about
selection
Wexford.
in town, yeah.
It doesn't matter what type of food you want, and people think that you have to go to the big city places to get a good range. But Wexford has a remarkable range in terms of every type of food you want, and a lot of the restaurants are there so long. Right, it is quite remarkable what you can actually find.
Oh, it has everything, and especially even if you've dietary needs, whether it be celiac or anything like that, an awful lot of them will have proper, really nice, high quality. It's not token gesture stuff that will cater for everybody. No, it's the food experience in Wexford, and it's something that from a hospitality point of view, we need to get everywhere open and supported, because it does make it unique, and then it brings people into the town, and then those people hopefully then will have more opportunities to shop in shops like Anthony's, like the ones we're talking about, Wally's, or any of the other multitude of shops that are around the town. But we have to have something that is unique about Wexford. So all these guys that Anthony's already mentioned, and again, anyone take a walk on the main street or any of the side streets now, which is great, Anthony, isn't it? That, as you said, Peter Street, for example, the side streets now are starting to open up. Henrietta Street, we're going to have park pedestrianised during the summer to support some of those local businesses that are on that. So it's going, but let's come to Wexford, eat in Wexford, shop in Wexford, spend your money in Wexford. It's a good place to come to, guys.
Now, one thing,
if that's okay.
Right, no problem at all, Leonard. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Sure, guys. Bye-bye.
Right, I think Wally must still be having connection problems there that hasn't appeared as of yet. So, looking forward, Anthony, what do you see be happening with the main street, with Wexford in general, over the coming 1, 3, 5 years? Like, do you see it thriving? Do you see more of the big companies trying to move in because Wexford has got it so right in the way they have it broken down and getting people in? Or what would you expect?
To be honest, the way things have been going in the last couple of months, we've seen 4 new independent stores opening. I kind of hope that's the way it continues personally, because it just gives that town that little bit of a difference. I can't see anywhere on the main street where you would have a big multinational company come in because physically there isn't the space. Like Leonard said, there's not many for let signs in town. I think there's 2 or 3, but that's because they're working on a plan that I won't say anything about.
No, absolutely.
And that will change an entire end of the town in a couple of years' time. So I think that's probably why they're still for let, because people aren't quite sure whether if we take it, would be there long term, or would there be a lot of work around us. But generally walking up South Main Street, coming out of my store and going right, and kind of walking up towards Pennies and stuff, everywhere is occupied, bar 1 or 2 large spaces. That wouldn't be suitable for a big company. It'd be more like a mid-range store. But multinationals, usually out of town, kind of like where Tesco's went, where Joyce's went, where the deals in the industrial estate is.
Yeah.
Just generally where they end up. Even McDonald's, we don't have a McDonald's in the town. It's on the outskirts of town.
Yeah. Just see we were commenting there from Bryn Jones. Got to love local shops, restaurants, etc. And it really does. It makes such a difference to any town and to the whole character of the town is the characters running the shops.
Well, that's it. I think when you walk into a shop and you feel welcome rather than just a number on a receipt, I think that makes a big difference, because for independent stores like ourselves, the people who walk in are supporting myself and my family and another owner and their family. It's different. But we all try and provide our own unique experience when you come into the store. And obviously ours is the type of store where it is a unique experience. It's one of its kind in Ireland. And obviously we bring the atmosphere with it as well.
Right. So talk to me now about, I know, one of your favourite subjects, the impact of Brexit where your business is concerned.
Brexit. Thanks, Rory.
And now, no, just remember we are going out live, so no swearing, please.
There'll be no swearing. I think it's easier being VAT registered than not being VAT registered, to be honest. I've kind of sat there thinking everything that comes in now, especially from July 1st, everything is VATable, or trade. Yeah, VATable, I suppose. It's probably not a word, but you know what I mean. Where obviously probably 50% of our trade comes from the UK, 25% from Europe, and 25% from local. Because obviously the industry we're in, the biggest market is in the UK and the US for the type of industry we are. So the biggest distribution companies are dotted around there. So we've had to obviously work around, and especially with the customs fees. But I think luckily so far, we've used decent couriers. Like, we're used to using DHL. So you know exactly what you're getting before you get it. And it's done correctly. Like, there's no made up figures or anything like that. And I think it hasn't increased any prices, which I think is the big thing. In fact, some of the prices we've been able to decrease, because we've actually found some of the distribution companies we use have actually decreased their prices because they spread their prices across EU, Euro, Sterling, and GBP. And when we look at the prices across the three, there's very little difference between a UK price now and an Irish price. So they've definitely dropped it a little bit, and I think that compensates against the VAT with Brexit. So we haven't been too bad so far. I'll probably say something else in a year's time, but it's been manageable. It hasn't had us increase any of our prices yet. And our distribution companies have been excellent. They're all well prepared. They were the two biggest ones we use, prepared 6 months before Brexit hit, just in case Brexit did happen. But they ship worldwide, so they kind of would have had to be in that situation where suddenly they would have been dealing with charges from different countries, or dealing with customers who would have had to deal with charges from different countries. And I think they've actually adjusted their lines accordingly, which we can't really complain about. Obviously, we'd love to have no customs, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen. And we've obviously been trading with Asia for years, And it's always been custom, so it's not something that I'm not used to personally. But I think for some other people, especially a couple of people that I know, it has come as a bit of a shock, and it does add quite a chunk of change on top of what you would
Yeah.
normally retail at. And when you can't claim back the VAT, then obviously that narrows the margins even further.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I just see now another comment that's come in there. Guys, glad it's sunny somewhere. Maggie, do you not realise they call it the sunny southeast because even when it's raining, and it's only a myth, it never rains down here. The sun is always shining. And that's in the smiles that you're met with in the shops. Isn't that right, Anthony?
Yeah. We're so used to it anyway. You're never quite
Yeah.
sure what you're going to get from day to day down here anyway. So
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. So tell me, is the light at the end of the tunnel that we all keep hearing about? Do you feel that that light is actually for the positive, or is it a train heading down the track thundering towards us that's going to cause a major collision?
to be honest, I don't think we'll find that out for probably 12 months.
Yeah.
I think everyone's really positive now because they've just reopened, and obviously all the towns are buzzing with the likes of staycations and stuff like that. All the money is kind of staying within the country, but I think in 12 months' time, I think 90% of Ireland is going to be going foreign, because we've all, like probably everybody else, we've all been waiting to go abroad or go somewhere or do something else, and I think we'll see the impact then. I think it'll kind of be pushed under the carpet in about 12 months' time, and then you'll see businesses who fall to the wayside, and you'll see other businesses who thrive.
Yeah.
I don't think you could really gauge that impact yet. It's too soon. It's less than 2 weeks since we reopened. It's been busier than it would normally be at this time of the year. But I think that's more for the fact that nobody had anything to do for the first 4.5 months of this year.
Yeah.
So I think kind of when September comes, kind of when school goes back, I think you'll see kind of the impact starting to hit. And then obviously you're hit with the boom of Christmas. That's why I think it's going to be about 12 months.
Right. And with the vaccination being so far along now, like from what you're seeing on the street, is there any sort of complacency setting in with people? Are people starting to ignore the social or reduce their how far they're watching, how close they're getting to people, or anything like that? Are you noticing any of that down along the street?
Not as many people wear masks anymore outside. You do see that. I know it's not mandatory, but Christmas time kind of period, pretty much everybody wore a mask. I do find since we've reopened that we're asking more people to pull up their mask, because obviously, like myself here, it'd be there and they'd just forget, and you're just saying you've got your mask, and it's something I think every business owner and every person who works in a store does not want to ask.
Yeah.
I think there's obviously queues in certain places where they're very tight, kind of behind each other outside. I think people think that if you're outside, it's fine. I don't know. I think that's a mindset.
So there's a message there needs to be put out to people that remember that the social distancing needs to happen outside as well as inside.
I think so, because you see, I mean, we'd all love to be gathered around with everybody that we know, and standing outside, but not everybody's been vaccinated, and even if you are, I think you can still get sick.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I've got my own personal circumstances being asthmatic, but I've also got my own, as you know, personal circumstances at home too that I'm trying to watch out for. So I'm careful for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I'd hope that everybody else thought the same way, that it may not affect you, but it may affect somebody you know or love.
Yeah.
No, and that's kind of what you need to think more than anything.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, as you know, I've a number of underlying conditions myself, so I totally understand where you're coming from, and hence why I haven't been in Wexford in well over probably a year and a half at this stage since I last managed to come down, because of the fact that, as you say, like, you have to put your own personal situation first and then look at those immediately in your inner bubble as such.
Exactly.
Right. Well, I see another comment that's just come in there from a LinkedIn user. that they're enjoying the content and what's happening in Wexford. And yet to find out, I mean, we're only shaping the iceberg here. Really and truly, I'd say to anyone at all, right, Wexford really is a wonderful, wonderful place to visit, purely because it is unique. Like every village, every town across the country has its characters. Wexford has its characters in virtually every single shop you go into.
Pretty much.
Right? And they're not afraid to imbibe in a few beverages when as soon as everywhere reopens.
Mine is 3 doors down from me in shops. So
oh, that's not too bad. You don't have too far to fall down. Right. So, in terms of the vaccinations themselves, I mean, do you feel the government have handled it well, breaking it down by age the way they have? Do you think they've got their categories wrong in how they've targeted the people for it?
Kind of two minds. Obviously, everything the government has done during the crisis has been slower than anybody would want, or not quite as polished as anybody wants. But we can only vaccinate people if you have the vaccine, and we're not the ones producing it, and the government aren't the ones producing it. So I think the age groups has made it go quicker. Literally just between this and this age. And it does seem to be quicker because I think mine is now probably going to be registry next week. So they're into the early 40s next week. So there's that. Obviously, my parents are elderly and they've already had their vaccinations. My wife's been offered a couple of times because she's diabetic, but for other circumstances, we're not willing to take risks by ironically, by not taking the vaccine, because there's just not enough data, obviously, for pregnancy-wise. So we're kind of rocking a hard place there. But I think we thought from the very beginning in the vaccination process, we thought, if you want to travel, if you want to go see a game, if you want to go and see a concert or anything else, you're going to need a digital passport. And then that's something that's on the cards by the looks of it as well. It's probably something we're going to be charged for as well.
Yeah. But I mean, again, and what a lot of people are saying, oh, this digital passport is only a means of tracking people. I mean, to my mind, in that regard, you carry a mobile phone with you. If they really wanted to track you, if your life is that interesting that they really wanted to track you, they're already well able to. So what difference have you with digital passport?
Sure, look at Facebook. You type anything into any search and it pops up on your Facebook feed.
Yes.
So you're already being monitored.
Actually, I can go one better than that. Myself and the tax fairy had a conversation there last week on the phone, and 5 minutes later, items we were discussing in the conversation started popping up. So,
yeah. Well, I've got Alexa in the shop, which I use as a speaker and use for the microphone for our CCTV. And I was talking to a customer, and then out of the blue, she just popped up and started joining in the conversation, making suggestions.
That's very good of Alexa to do that.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence at its best.
I'm telling you, yeah.
So, where do you see the future of gaming? Right. So I know you deal in all the old school, and you've gone up through the categories. Where do you see gaming going forward? I mean, are we looking at virtual reality being as good as it's going to get, or what's going to come after that?
Well, I know for the PlayStation 5, that for anybody who was lucky enough to get one, they are working on a model of VR for that, which is going to take it into almost like augmented reality or actual reality, where they're supposedly going to be producing like almost like a bodysuit, kind of like if you've seen the movie Ready Player One, where they actually wear a suit and it actually interacts. They're looking at something obviously dumbed down version of that, but something that we'd have never seen before in the gaming industry. Personally, I do like the VR. I love my horror games, and they do make it pop a little bit more.
Yeah.
VR is definitely on the way up rather than stagnated. And at the moment in time, kind of outside hardware, there's nothing else really coming up other than obviously new titles. Obviously there is VR, but the VR for the PS5 is probably maybe 2, maybe 3 years away. I see digital coming to the fore, but I can't see digital coming. It's not, obviously there's 2 versions of a PlayStation and an Xbox now. There's a digital version and there's a disc version, but I can't see that changing in the next 10 years personally, because the infrastructure for internet is just not in pretty much any country to be able to be completely rolled out. I think that's been proved in America with Google Stadia. Pure digital thing, bring the controller with you, plug it into anything, and half the content doesn't work. And it's now rumored that Google are actually going to remove the service. So people who've paid a lot of money, because all digital games lose all their content as well, because obviously they switch the server off, there's nothing to play anymore. So I think discs are going to be around for a lot longer than people think. Or even Nintendo have gone back to cartridge in a way by using the SD cartridges for the Switch. And I can't see it changing that way anytime soon, probably not in the next 10 years. Obviously, retro continues to grow, because every time there's a new console generation, then another console generation becomes retro. So it's ever evolving.
Yeah.
So gaming is probably one of the biggest industries in the world. It probably generates as much income, if not more, sometimes than movies do. And obviously it has a longer lasting effect with the worst thing you've ever heard, DLCs. They're downloadable content, where you have to pay, obviously. So the same with like EA Sports, Electronic Arts. Obviously there's loot boxes and stuff like that. So digital will always be around, but discs are not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And tell me, if someone came to you, because you'd be the one to know, and they really want to take a leap back in time and they're looking for a Space Invaders machine for home, are you the right person to talk to on something like that? Or would that be something you just refer them on to other specialists who deal more so in the actual getting machines themselves?
Well, owning a couple of arcade machines, more than a couple of arcade machines myself, I do know where to go and get them. We do have plans near the end of the year, which was supposed to be near the end of last year, but obviously COVID pushed it a little bit. But we are going to be stocking the arcade one-up machines, and they're the ones that are about 4.5 feet high, but with the butt riser takes it to around 5.5 feet high, and they're exact replicates of original arcade machines. I actually have a couple of them at home myself. I bought them during lockdown because there was not much else to do but play video games, and they're very reasonably priced. They're somewhere between $299 and $449, but you get an home arcade in your house, and you pretty much get to pick anything from Space Invaders all the way up to the likes of Outrun, or you can get the pinball machines now as well, or you can even get the Star Wars one. Do you remember the one years ago where you actually sit inside? They're actually in the process of being built by Arcade One-Up as well. So they're making the home arcade market a little bit more accessible for people, especially with 1, finance, and 2, obviously space.
Yeah, no, that's great. So tell me, if someone came along to you and said, Anthony, I have a great idea for a business and I'm going to go out and going to become self-employed, what advice would you give them?
Research again, and then research again. And you know what I'm like with my figures as well.
Yeah.
I would pick the living daylights out of that. I'd also take a walk around where you are as well, because you may have the best idea in the world, but if the market isn't there, then it doesn't matter. Businesses are here for a reason, because there's a want for them or a need for them. Sometimes not seeing a business in town isn't necessarily a good thing. I've seen businesses come and go here in less than 6 months, and they've been fantastic businesses. It just didn't have the market locally for it, unfortunately. So I think know your market, know your figures, and do your research.
I absolutely agree with you there. I mean, it's all very, very valid. And again, the only thing I would add to that is make sure don't surround yourself with yes people, because if you have people around you who are going to tell you how wonderful you are and how wonderful your ideas are, you
Yeah,
can very quickly lose sight of reality and what you need to know.
yeah, exactly.
So
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
yeah, that's absolutely very, very true as well, because I mean we've all done that.
Yeah,
So
big time.
as somebody who came from a financial background to becoming self-employed, have you ever stopped to think, was that really the right thing to do, or would I have been better in the safe career? As in, do you ever feel you've ever had regrets about making the leap to being self-employed?
No, never. Obviously,
Never.
you have bad days. Of course, you have bad days. If you've got a day where it's quiet, and then you're looking at your account and you're thinking, how am I going to pay this month, or how am I going to pay that?
Yeah,
But the good days far outweigh the bad days. And I know a lot of people say that the first year in business is the most difficult. I actually don't agree with that. I actually think probably the second and third are, because I think you go in with a high and there's a buzz there, but then suddenly it becomes monotonous and you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's just you need to know how to freshen things up yourself, but it's not just physically freshen up. You need to freshen up here,
yeah,
because that's it becomes like doing any job, except you're not getting the same gratitude or the same kind of put downs as you would if you were employed.
yeah,
Um, it can be very, very difficult. You do get sleepless nights. Um, but for me, I'd never go back to being employed. I don't think anybody would be able to employ me anymore. Um, I don't think I could be told what to do from a business perspective. You know yourself, you work for yourself, or you know you make the decisions. If you make the right decision, you congratulate yourself. You make the wrong decision, there's nobody to tell you made the wrong decision. You just deal with it yourself and you chalk it up to experience.
absolutely, absolutely. And the very final question, and we'll wind it up then, is if you were fortunate enough to have the right numbers for the Euro Millions tomorrow night, what would be your go-to items?
Um, I think I've said something to you before about this, but my dream in Wexford was to open a barcade. Um,
Right, now
and
you
I
should
think
explain to people exactly what a barcade is.
a barcade is basically a pub stroke restaurant that also houses an original arcade room where you can walk in, you can play video games to your heart's content, you can eat some great food, enjoy local brewed beer, and just mingle with everybody. That's what it is. It's a fun, inviting atmosphere. Um, there is one in Dublin which I've been to and it's fantastic. There's one in Amsterdam, funnily enough, that was the first time I ever saw one, right in the middle of a particular district. And it's something I think I said to you maybe 5, 6 years ago. I tried. So much red tape, so much non-understanding of what the business actually is, and but it's something that hasn't gone away from me either. It's may not need the lotto to follow that dream, um, but it's just obviously that's kind
I
of the one thing I would do big time.
I think from what you're saying there, I think it's a case of not when I win the lotto, but certainly watch this space because it's going to happen in the not too distant future.
That is and always was the plan.
Right. Absolutely. Well, listen, Anthony, really appreciate you joining us today. I know, unfortunately, Wally's been having technical difficulties and hasn't got in, and Robin Grundy Murphy from Borean Studio also had a problem this morning that she wasn't able to connect. But I'm sure we'll get them back on the show again in the future. So I know we're 10 minutes early there, but I think we'll call a halt to it early
Perfect.
and let you get back to work. Really appreciate your time,
No
Anthony, and
problem, Rory. It was
have a
really
very
enjoyable.
successful day.
Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Don't know what happened there. We lost it. And we will see you all in 2 weeks' time, and looking forward to seeing you then.